Sahana vavatu, Sahanau bhunaktu, Saha viryam karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We'll chant the first verse in chapter 1, the invocation. Namah Shri Shankarananda Guru Padambu Janmane Savila Samaha Graha Grasaika Karmani. So this is the verse 1 in chapter 1. We'll keep that as the invocation shloka and Panchadashi to keep remembering our Guru. And in this verse, we all know that Panchadashi is by Swami Vidyaranya. So in this verse, he invokes his Guru, he invokes his Bhagavan, who is like that crocodile who eats away ignorance and all its effects. So every time we chant this, it's just a reminder to seek their grace and blessings so that our ignorance will be gone for good. So we are now in chapter 2 of Panchadashi. We've completed chapter 1. Chapter 1 was Tattva Viveka. Chapter 2, as you can see, is Mahabhuta Viveka. That means the differentiation of the 5 elements. So Panchadashi is a kind of text that has 15 different parts, or what we really call 15 prakaranas. Prakarana means topic, like a topical text, because each really prakarana, what we call chapter, is of a different topic. And we saw that the first 5 were to do with Viveka, and then 6 to 10 is to do with Deepa, and then 11 to 15, Ananda. So in a way, it's like Sat, Chit, Ananda. And this is a text which is taken in Vedanta. Swami Tapovan Maharaj actually used to teach this text. This text comprises everything in Vedanta. And Swami Vidyaranya really goes into detail of how to clearly understand certain concepts. So with the grace of Bhagavan and blessings of Guru, we start our Panchadashi class, chapter 2. So as I said, today I'll be sharing the transliteration of the verses because I know this book doesn't have that. So I'll share it on my screen and you can follow along. I'll chant once, you can repeat, and then we'll chant together. Yeah? I will maybe request Meena Mami if you can chant after me. That would be great. Yeah? So if you can mute. Yeah. Okay, perfect. All right. Sadadvaitam shrutam yattat.
Sadadvaitam shrutam yattat.
Panchabhuta vivekataha.
Panchabhuta vivekataha.
Bodhum shakyam tato bhuta.
Bodhum shakyam tato bhuta.
Panchakam pravivichyate.
Panchakam pravivichyate.
Sadadvaitam shrutam yattat. Panchabhuta vivekataha. Bodhum shakyam tato bhuta. Panchakam pravivichyate. Okay, great. So now you'll go through the word by word meaning. So maybe you can see the words here. The first word we're going to see is yat. Yat here. This sad advaita. And now I bolded this because it's a very, this is a word that's going to come again and again. Sad advaita. Sad means existence. Advaita means non-dual. So that non-dual existence, sad advaitam, shrutam, which is according to our shrutis. And bodhum shakyam, that can be known, right? So that sad advaitam, that bodhum shakyam, that can be known. How? Panchabhuta vivekataha. Vivekataha means distinguishing, discerning, differentiating. In the first chapter, we had tattva viveka. There, viveka meant inquiry. Here, viveka means discriminating, distinguishing, differentiating. What? Panchabhuta. Bhuta means elements. Pancha means 5. So by differentiating the 5 elements, that sad advaitam, that non-dual truth is to be known. Tataha, this word, tato, tataha. Therefore, bhuta panchakam pravivichyate. Therefore, the 5 elements will be differentiated. Okay, I'll stop share for a while. So Brahman, who is according to Shruti, the non-dual reality, can be known by the process of differentiation from the 5 elements. So this process is being discussed. And so this is how the first verse opens. So what is our goal here? In this whole entire chapter now has 109 verses. So you can see Tattva Viveka had less, about half of it. And in Panchadashi, each chapter really has a different volume of verses. So here we have 109. Now, what is the link that we have to keep in our minds through this 109 verses? It's all based on one Shruti Vakya. Shruti Vakya means one statement from our Upanishad. And what is that statement? It is this statement, Sad, I share it with you. Sadeva Somya Idam Agra Asid. Okay. We're going to do, after this chapter, we are going to do chapter 6 of Chandogya Upanishad, where this statement comes from. So this is the Vastu Sangraha Vakya. This literally means that everything is collected in this verse. So this is the basis for the entire chapter. Sat. Sat again means existence. Sat can also mean truth. Here, existence. Sat eva. Sat alone. Somya means, oh dear one. In Chandogya Upanishad, it's Udalaka Rishi talking to his son Shwetaketu. It's a very beautiful story, and we'll get to it in chapter 6 of Chandogya. Idam means this entire world is existence. Agra asit. Agra means before creation, this entire world, asit, was existence. So before creation, this entire world was existence. And what is the nature of that existence? Eka, one alone. Ekam eva, one alone, advitiyam, without a second or without any differentiation. So this is the basis. The whole chapter is trying to tell us that there is really only existence. Before creation, what do you mean before creation? Before names and forms. Do you mean now there's Sat and something else? No, even now Sat alone is. So how do we explain this? See, when we think of how do they say Sat alone is? How do you say existence alone is? Existence alone is, or existence alone was, because all the things that we see or we perceive or we experience are only names and forms. And these names and forms do not have a solid reality. Let's say we take a dress, okay, a dress or a shirt. Now that dress or a shirt has a name, but let's say it becomes really old, you tear it out and becomes a rag for you to clean with, right? So the name changed. That same shirt now, instead of being this rectangle way, now it could be a square because it's a rag. So the shape changed. That same shirt that was nice, bright, and white now could be full of dirt. So the color changed. The color changed, the shape changed, the name changed, the function changed, even the size of it changed. So every single thing about this shirt changed. So what is the reality of this shirt? Not the name, not the function, not the shape, not the form, nothing. There's no reality. There's no, that solidity of the reality ceases because all of it changes. What do you call shirt? And so in Chandogya Upanishad, it said that this is only Vacharambhanam. This is these, what we see, names and forms are only a slip of the tongue. That's all they are. There's no solidity. Even if we take our bodies, right? It's called a body, but after it's cremated or after it's buried, it's all just ashes and bones. That's it, right? The shape also changes. The shape, the form changes, the function changes. You know, when we get older, we really can't do as much. The weight changes. So what solid substance there is called body? What about that thing is called body? There's nothing. There's actually nothing there that we can hold to be called body. So the only thing that really exists is existence. The whole world loses its solidity in this way. And so we say, before creation, meaning that even before you perceive names and forms, and even when you perceive names and forms, the reality of it is only existence. And this existence, it is pure existence, what we call sanmatra. It's pure existence. And therefore, this pure existence is something that is guna rahita. It's something that doesn't have any property. Existence doesn't have any property. It's just pure existence. This is what we're talking about. And because it doesn't have any property, it's indriya agochara, means it cannot be perceived by the senses or the mind. So pure existence, no properties, cannot be perceived by the senses or the mind. And that means that it's not limited to an object, because all the properties, all the things that we experience are objects. They're books, they're bottles, they're pens, they're papers. All of these are objects. And when this book is not this pencil, and this pencil is not this book, each object has its limitation. But this pure existence, it's not in any one object, it pervades all objects. So we say this existence is sarvagata. It's without properties, cannot be perceived by the senses or the mind, not limited to one object or one thing. Therefore, it's all pervading. It's this all pervading existence. And this all pervading existence, because it is all pervading, it is just one, ekam. So that sat is ekam. That truth is one. It is one. Now, a little more about this truth. What else is there about this truth? What is this existence exactly? What is this one existence? Now, when we look at the world, how do we come up with what is the substratum of the world? So we look at where the world came from, how the world has come about. And when we dive into that deeply, we realize that this sat, or this existence alone, is the material cause and the efficient cause of the entire world. So we have seen this in chapter 1, just like in the case of the potter and the pot. The pot is the material cause, and the potter is the efficient cause, right? So these two things are required to create something. And you might also say, well, there are other causes, like the potter's wheel and the stick, etc. Okay, fine. Those are the auxiliary causes. In this case, we consider it as part of the efficient cause. Now, when, of course, you take bangle, bracelet, earring, etc., they're all, in essence, gold. We say gold is their material cause. Gold alone they came from. When you take pitcher and pot and glass, we say clay alone is their material cause. Clay is where they came from. But when you take this entire world, which includes all clay things, all golden things, where did everything come from? That material cause is existence. That material cause, or what we call the nimitta karana, is existence. And that existence, the material cause is upadana, not nimitta. The material cause is upadana karana. And that is also the efficient cause, or nimitta karana. So that existence is also consciousness. So it's not that everything came from some existence. Everything came from existence that is actually consciousness. So the entire world comes from this existence consciousness. Well, how do I know that? You're telling me all of this, and it's so theoretical that everything comes from existence consciousness. Well, because that existence consciousness is you. Everything comes from you. Everything comes from you, and you just think about it deeply. Think about it deeply. When everything is taken away from you, your body, your mind, your intellect, your thoughts, your personality, what remains? What remains there? What remains is this existence. And what remains is this awareness. You yourself are conscious. You yourself are aware. So this is not just some thing that, yes, the whole world is existence consciousness. The whole world, in essence, comes from you, me, not this body, mind, ego, me, but this pure awareness, pure consciousness. So that Sat, which is non-dual, is actually me in essence. So this chapter, like all of the other chapters in Panchadashi, are this journey from that Sat to me. So this Sat Advaita means this much. Sat Advaita, the journey of existence to that non-duality, to me. And this is the subject matter of this chapter, Sat Advaita. Now, who is the student, right? So now we are coming into the topic of what we call Anubandha Chatushtaya, or the fourfold factors that pull us to study this text. So the subject matter is Sad Advaitam, and the student is who? The Mumukshu, the seeker. And why is the Mumukshu studying this? Bodhum Shakyam, because through this, the truth can be known and one can be liberated, or rather realize that they're always free, that they are ever free. And therefore, the sambandha or the connection is pravivichyate. It is this book, this text that will give us the knowledge to realize our freedom. And that is why we're connected to it. Sambandha means I'm connected to this pursuit because this book will give me the knowledge of truth. So again, the subject matter is that Sat Advaita, that non-dual existence, which is me. The student is the mumukshu, the one who has a really deep thirst for this. The goal is, of course, to know this truth and realize our freedom. And the sambandha or the connection is that this book will help us do that. And that's why we're studying it, right? Now you might say that, oh my gosh, I've studied this. I've studied so much of Vedanta and all the books are saying the same thing. And that is so true. All the books are saying the same thing. But we can look at it in two ways. One way is that they might be saying the same thing, but we didn't really get it yet. So when we take different texts that speak from different angles, they touch us in different ways. And the second point is, well, okay, if you already know the truth, then what else is there to do? You might as well just revel in it, might as well just be in it, so that we are ever reminded of who we are, right? So this is why we are studying. So now, see here in this slide, okay, share this. The next one. Yeah. So this pure existence, so always come back to this. The journey from existence to my own self. Pure existence is without properties, cannot be comprehended by the senses. It's all pervading, one non-dual self, which is obviously the nature of consciousness, which is me alone, which is me alone. Okay. Now, so how is Swami Vidyaranyaji taking this text? So he's saying this is the main topic. This is where we want to go. But let me tell you where your minds are, where our minds are. All of our minds are where in this world. So what Swami Vidyaranyaji is going to do is actually take us to the world. Take us to the world in a way that you and I have never seen it before. I mean, he's so logical. He takes us to the world, to the 5 elements, to the sense organs, to the mind, and slowly beyond that, to the truth. Because he says, listen, your attention right now is there. So let me take you there and bring you back. Puja Gurudev used to say, life is just this. There are some people who are looking out, and there's some people who look in. So the whole journey is just look in. That's all. That's all Vedanta is, right? So if you're looking out, just close and look in. That is Vedanta. Nothing more to be said. Nothing more to be done. And if we got this, then good. But if we didn't get it, then let's try again. So that's how, our Mahatmas speak. They make everything so simple. So now let's see verse number 2. Now verse number 1 gave the introduction, and verse number 2 to 6a, because it's the first part of the verse, this is going to talk all about the elements and their properties. So we'll read. Oh wait, let me share the English so that you can see it. There you go. Shabda sparsha rupa rasau.
Shabda sparshau rupa rasau.
Gandho bhuta guna ime.
Gandho bhuta guna ime.
Ekadvitri chatuh pancha.
एकद्वित्रिचतुष्पञ्च
Guna Vyomadishu Kramat.
गुणा व्योमादिषु क्रमात्
Shabda Sparsha Rupa Raso Gandho Bhuta Guna Ime. Ekadvitrichatuh Pancha Guna Vyomadishu Kramat. So, all he's saying here is that there are 5 elements, right? So we're starting from the 5 elements, Mahabhuta, 5 elements: space, air, fire, water, earth. And he says each of them have their properties. So Shabda here means sound, Sparsha means touch, Rupa means form and color, Rasa, taste, Gandha, smell. And all of these are Bhuta Guna. Guna means they're properties of Bhuta, elements. Ime, these are properties of elements. And Eka literally means 1. Dvi, 2. Tri, 3. Chatu, 4. Pancha, 5. Guna, all of these properties, Vyomadishu, are seen in space, etc., successively 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it says here, the properties of the 5 elements are sound, touch, color, taste, and smell. In Akasha, or space, air, fire, water, and earth, the number of properties successively are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So what does this mean? Okay, so I put this chart here so that it's easy to understand. I think this this chapter is going to need some charts. So here are the 5 elements, okay? So you can see the 5 elements. I put the Sanskrit and the English, so it's easy. Now, each of them have what is called, first I want you to look here in this column, it's called Swavishesha Guna, means its unique property. So here, space has its unique property, sound. Air has its unique property, touch or sparsha. Fire has its unique property, form, color, or what we call rupa. Water has its unique property, what we call taste or rasa. And Prithvi has its unique property, smell or gandha, right? And this all we know. Everybody okay so far? Yes? This is good so far? Okay. Now, each one has its unique property, which is called Swavishesha Guna, but it also has the property of its cause. So you will see their number increases 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, space doesn't have any element before it, right? So it only has one property, sound. While air has space before it. So it has the property of space, which is sound, and it also has touch, okay? So it has 2. Fire has air before it. So then it will also have, it has air before it and it has space before it. So actually it will take this column. It'll take sound, touch. So sound and touch will be here. And then its own property, which is form. So fire has 3. It takes sound from space, touch from air, and form is its own. Water now has 4 because it takes sound from space, touch from air, form from fire, and then its own rasa, taste. That's its own added one. And then earth or Prithvi now has 5. It takes sound, touch, form, and taste from space, air, fire, and water. And then it adds its own, which is smell. So it has 5. So you can see here that these are the properties of the elements. So each element corresponds to a property, and that the properties actually increase as the elements become grosser. So one way of also knowing if something is really gross, it's because it has more properties. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now these are the 5 properties. Now what is he going to do? He's actually going to distinguish these properties. He's actually going to tell us what sound, what touch, what form do we actually feel or do we actually experience in these elements. Okay, so now we will go to the next verse. Yeah, so this is clear? Because if this is clear, then we can move. Yeah, okay, good. All right, so now we go to verse number 3. Pratidvanirviyat-shabdah.
प्रतिध्वनिर् शब्दः
Vayo bisiti shabdanam.
वायो विशीति शब्दनम्
Anushnashita samsparshaha.
अनुष्णशीत संस्पर्शः.
I think there's a dirgha A there, sorry. Anushnashita samsparshaha.
अनुष्णाशीत संस्पर्शः.
Vahno bhugubhugudvanihi.
वह्नो भुगु ध्वनिः.
Pratidvanirviyat-shabdah. Vayo bisiti shabdanam. Anushnashita samsparshaha. Vahno bhugubhugudvanihi. Okay, so what's happening here? So pratidvani literally means not echo. In your book it will say echo, but pratidvani is that sound which is transmitted. That is the property of space. So when we say the property, I will stop sharing for a second so I can see you. The property of space is sound, right? So the first thing is the property of space is sound. What does that mean? That means that because when there's space, you don't just hear sound, right? In just plain space, you won't hear sound. It means that sound which is transmitted through a medium is the property of space, right? So this pratidvani, this word pratidvani means that sound transmitted through a medium is the property of space. So that medium is required to transmit it, but without space, it's also telling us without space, you can't hear sound. But to hear that sound in space, we need that transmission. So pratidvani is pratidvanihi viyat shabdah. That is the property of space. Now we go to air. So air has 2 things, right? Air has sound and touch. We saw, right? Air has sound and touch. Vayo, air, bisiti shabdana, means the sound of air is BC. That's the sound, huh? BCB, right? So BC means it's like this rustling sound. Air makes a rustling sound. That's the kind of sound that air makes. And then anushna shita samsparshaha. And then air also has touch. But the kind of touch that air has is not cold or hot. So air's touch, when it's mixed with something, yes, it can be cold. When it's mixed with, ice, etc., it can be cold. When it's mixed with the warmth of the sun, it can be hot. But on its own, it's not hot nor cold. So anushna shita. And then, so now this is air. Now, fire has 3. Yes, fire has 3. So we say Vahno Bhugu Bhugu Dvanihi. So again, we start from sound. So what is the sound of fire? Bhugu Bhugu. That's what it says. The sound of fire is Bhugu Bhugu. That's how it makes a crackling sound. This is fire. So verse 3 means echoes, again, echoes transmitted sound. Transmitted sound arises in akasha or space, and hence we infer that the property of space is sound. Air makes a rustling sound when it moves, and it feels neither hot nor cold to the touch. And a fire flame makes a characteristic crackling sound. Now, so fire has 3. We saw sound. So now we'll have to see what is the touch of fire, what is the form of fire. Okay, and don't worry, we'll put all of this together, so don't worry. Okay, verse number 4. Ushna sparsha prabharupam.
Ushna sparsha prabha rupam.
Jale bulubulu dvanihi.
Jale bulubulu dvanihi.
Shita sparsha shukla rupam.
Shita sparsha shukla rupam.
Raso madhuryamiritaha.
Raso madhuryamiritaha.
Ushna sparsha prabharupam. Jale bulubulu dvanihi. Shita sparsha shukla rupam. Raso madhuryamiritaha. Okay. So what does this mean? This means now that the touch of fire is ushna sparsha. It's hot. Touch of fire is hot. Prabharupa, and its color is effulgent. It's this bright, luminous, effulgent color. So fire is over. We had 3: sound, touch, and form. Now we go to water. Jale means in water. Bulu bulu dvanihi. The sound of water is bulu bulu, like a rippling sound. So just see how Swami Vidyaranya is so incredibly clear about these elements. And don't think that he's doing don't think we're getting really deep into this. The purpose is to go beyond it. He's examining it so clearly so that we can see it and go beyond it. So the sound of water is bulu bulu. Then shita sparsha. The touch of water is it's cool to touch. And shukla rupa. The color of water is like white. It's actually this crystal clear color. But when water freezes, it becomes white, it becomes clouds, it becomes ice. So shukla, transparent, white, crystal clear. And it's rasa. Rasa means its taste. Madhuryam irita. Its taste is madhuryam. Madhuryam means sweet, but really water is tasteless. But that taste, that sweetness here means that tastelessness, that ability of water, that tastelessness of water to be able to quench our thirst is its sweetness. There's, when we think about days or nights when we're really thirsty, there's nothing that can quench our thirst like water. And that's its madhurya. So this is water. Now, what about the earth? What is the earth like? So now here, he will tell us what the earth is. Bhumau kadakada shabdaha.
Bhumau kadakada shabdaha.
Karthinyam sparsha ishyate.
Karthinyam sparshayishyate.
Neeladikam chitra rupam.
Neeladikam chitra rupam.
Madhuramladiko rasaha.
Madhuram ladiko rasaha.
Bhumau kadakada shabdaha. Kaఠिन्यं sparsha ishyate. Neeladikam chitrarupam. Madhuramladiko rasaha. So bhumau, in the earth, what's the sound? It's this kada, like a rattling sound, kada. And kaఠिन्यं sparsha means the touch is hard. Earth is hard to touch. Neeladikam chitrarupa, and its colors, chitrarupam, are variegated, various shades of neela. Neela here means dark. So various shades, dark, the dark blue, the dark black, the reds, etc. And it's, so we have found its sound, it's hard to touch, then its colors, and then now we see its taste. Its taste is madhuram ladiko rasaha, means it has 6 tastes. Madhura is sweet, amla sour, and then we have also the pungent, spicy, tikta. Then we have that which is kashaya, which is bitter, and then we have that which is astringent also. We have that astringent one, and then we have lavana, which is salty. The word for astringent, I will tell you, is kashaya. I will tell you next week. I can't remember now, but there's one for astringent. Okay. So it has these 6 tastes. This is earth. So it said actually in our Ayurveda Shastra that every meal should have these 6 tastes. So sweet, salty, bitter, astringent, pungent, etc. All of each meal should have all 6 tastes. Okay, now what about the 5th property of earth, which is its smell? So this we will see now. Go one slide back so we can see. We will just read the first line here so that we can finish the thought flow, and then I'll show you the chart with everything. Yeah. So here, Surabhi tarangadhau dvau gunaha. Actually, one more time. Surabhi taragandhau dvau.
Surabhi taragandhau dvau.
Guna samyak vivechitaha.
Guna samyak vivechitaha.
We'll repeat the slide. Surabhi taragandhau dvau guna samyak vivechitaha. So here, we're only going to go up to 6a today. Surabhi. Surabhi means a pleasant smell. Itara means the other. Smell means unpleasant smell. Are the 2 smells, 2 properties of 2 smells of earth. Samyak vivechitaha. And this is how everything is well classified, well differentiated. So the earth emits smells, both pleasant and unpleasant. And thus the characteristic properties of the 5 elements are well classified. Okay, so now don't panic, but I will show you a chart and everything will become very easy and you can see everything clearly, okay? Now this is where we are at. So here we said that these are the elements and these are the number of properties of the elements, right? And so now remember, they have their own property plus acquired properties, right? So for example, air has its own property of touch, but acquired property of sound, like that. So these are the acquired properties that you see in the black font, and their own properties are in the blue font. So space has its own property of sound, and it's that transmitted sound. Air has rustling sound because that property mixes with air, right? And air also has touch, not hot or not cold on its own. And fire has a crackling sound of fire. And it is hot to touch, and it's bright and luminous. So now it actually has sound, touch, form, right? Then here, water has rippling sound. It has rippling sound, and it's cold to touch, and it's crystal clear. And the taste is neutral. It's a neutral taste, but that itself is that sweetness. And earth has a rattling sound. It's hard to touch. It's of variegated colors, and it's of these 6 tastes: sweet, salty, bitter, spicy, astringent, and sour. Yeah, that astringent is katu. So sweet, madhurya, salt, lavana; bitter, kashaya; spicy, tikta; astringent, katu; and sour is amla. So these 6 tastes, they say, should be in every meal in Ayurveda. Maybe not so much breakfast, but definitely other meals. Yeah. So, and then this is earth's own property, which is smell. And in the smells, in terms of smell, it has pleasant and unpleasant smell. So if you'll notice, the others don't really have smell unless they're mixed with something, of course, right? And then again, when we go up, the others don't really have taste unless they're mixed with something. And then we see really that air and space don't really have form unless, again, it's mixed with something. So in this way, these are the 5 properties, and these are 5 elements, and these are the 5 properties that come with them. The 5 properties plus other properties. So now I'll just summarize, and then we will go through any questions or clarifications. Okay. So how is this text opening? Again, this text is opening with Sad Advaitam. So every time you're trying to see what is this text about, you see the first verse, it's Sad Advaita. It's not about anything else. It just so happens that Swami Vidyaranya gets really into analyzing everything, but this text is about the journey to oneself, non-dual self. And the basis for this chapter is Sadeva Somya idam agra asid ekameva advitiyam. That before creation, there was only one non-dual self. And even now, there's only one non-dual self. All the names and forms are vacharambanam. They're just the tip of the tongue because they're not substantial. When we really examine them, they cease to exist. That you cannot hold a name. You can't hold a form, a shape. You can't hold anything, a function. You cannot hold it because it changes, it disappears, it goes away. The only thing that stays is that existence. And that is what we are trying to get to. And that existence is nothing but you. But in order to get to that existence, to revel in that existence, we have to see how it's different from this world, or rather how the world is different from this existence. Because our eyes right now are in the world. And so he starts with analyzing the world through analyzing first the 5 elements and then the properties corresponding to each element. How is the thought flow going to go next? Then he'll go inward. He'll analyze sense organs and how they relate or correspond to the elements. Then he'll analyze the mind and how that corresponds to the elements. So in essence, Swami Vidyaranya is actually also telling us that everything is nothing but existence. And if we can't see that, then everything is nothing but 5 elements. At least see that, right? Okay. So today we'll stop here, pause this, and we'll do some Q&A.